So you've been walking 20,000 steps a day and you still can't lose any of that stubborn belly fat. Maybe you've even gained a little weight and you're starting to feel as tired and sluggish as ever. In this video, I'm going to break down why you can't lose any belly fat despite your high volume step total. First things first, you're not actually walking 20,000 steps a day. In fact, you might have days where you've crossed 20,000 steps, or your average step total for every single day is hovering around 20,000 steps, but you sure as hell have not been actually crossing 20k steps every single day. Now, I believe almost everyone on my comments whenever they post their step totals or even their daily step averages. But again, at the end of the day, it's an average, right? You're gonna have days, and I'm sure there are a lot of you, this is the case for most of you all, who are unfortunately, still at the start of your journey, but you guys haven't had enough time to successfully build a 20k step streak. And that requires you to be consistently every single day, no rest days, no days off, to be knocking out and crossing over 20,000 steps every single day. I bet there's probably a large segment of you guys who have crossed into the 20k step territory, but you still have rest days. You still have days where you can only knock out 15k steps or 10k steps. Or you have days where you're able to far eclipse 20k steps and actually get into the 30k step range as well. But that's not consistency. Consistency means that you're stringing together days, weeks, months, maybe even years of walking over 20,000 steps a day. So the fact that you're not walking each and every single day at 20,000 steps is one of the reasons why that weight is starting to creep up. Because suddenly you're not maintaining that same calorie deficit through your activity level. For you to maintain that same activity level, you're going to have to stick to 20,000 steps every single day and not take any days off. So that's the first problem. The second problem is that your step goal or your step target is actually stopping you from walking even more. In fact, you're treating that step goal as a max, right? You're saying that I'm going to walk 20,000 steps a day, and then as soon as I cross 20,000 steps, I'm going to stop. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to finally sit down for the rest of the day. And that is actually counterintuitive because, as I said, it's going to keep you from walking even more, pushing yourself. And for you to actually maintain your calorie deficit, especially through your activity level, you're going to have to get into the habit of gradually increasing your steps over time. The same way that you progressively overload in the gym, week after week, month after month, you're going to have to progressively overload on your step count. And it's as simple as taking your daily step average and just adding 1,000 steps to it every single month. So if your goal, and let's not even call it a goal or target, let's call it a minimum. If your step minimum for the day is 20k, then next month, September for example, add 1,000 steps to it. So now that daily step minimum becomes 21k or 21,000 steps, which is just an extra 10 minutes a day of walking. If you have enough time in a day to knock out 20,000 steps, or roughly 200 minutes of walking, or 3 hours and 20 minutes of walking, then you sure as hell have an extra 10 minutes to bump that up to 21,000 steps. And then every subsequent month, you just keep on adding 1,000 steps or an extra 10 minutes a day of walking. That is how you're going to truly maintain your calorie deficit through your activity level. And that is actually going to be the key to allow you to surpass those annoying ass fat loss plateaus, which are going to happen quite a bit along your fat loss journey. Fat loss, and we're going to talk about this later on in the video, takes a hell of a long time, and you're going to reach days, you're going to have weeks in fact, where your weight doesn't change at all on the scale. You step on the scale and you're still at the same weight. If you're going into the gym, then you're also stacking muscle. You're building muscle simultaneously. You're building muscle, you're losing fat, so your weight is going to obviously seesaw between gaining muscle and losing fat. So as a result, you're going to be at a standstill for days on end, maybe even weeks on end. Don't slash calories, and instead increase your steps gradually over time. And my rule of thumb is still 1,000 steps added to your daily step average every single month. So most of you are not even doing that. You guys have been on 20,000 steps, treating that as your max, day after day, week after week, maybe even months, right? You've become complacent. You've become content with that 20K step number. Don't become content. Don't ever become complacent, especially when it comes to health and fitness, and gradually increase that 20,000 step number over time. Number three, you're not actually in a calorie deficit. You might be in a calorie deficit thanks to 20,000 steps, but you are not in a calorie deficit through your nutrition. In fact, you are not tracking your calories. You probably don't give a crap about your macros, and one of the reasons for that is you've never even taken the time to calculate your maintenance calories, which is the amount of calories you should be eating in order to maintain your body weight. Instead, you probably looked at someone else's number online and you just started eating at that number of calories, and you never adjusted that number based on your age, your weight, your height, your gender, your activity level. I have a free AI prompt in the description that you can follow. You can use that with any AI out there. There are plenty of them. It doesn't matter. I'm not partial to any type of AI. The point is, you can use that prompt. You can come up with your own tailored maintenance calorie level. And all you do is, once you calculate your maintenance calories, subtract 500 from it. That's it. And then that's going to be the number of calories you're going to be eating at throughout your entire fat loss journey. Don't even think about slashing those calories. Instead, just gradually increase your step goal, or in our case, what did we say? Step minimum every single month. And just keep at the same calorie deficit level. If you decide to increase that calorie deficit, for example, if you took your maintenance calories and subtracted 500 from it, let's take a really, nice and even number. 2,500 calories is your maintenance, and we subtract 500 from it, giving us 2,000 calories as our calorie deficit number. So we're eating every single day at 2,000 calories, but we decide to slash our calories maybe a couple of months into our fat loss journey because we were getting tired, we were getting impatient, and we want to get this fat loss over with. So what happens is you start to increase your calorie deficit. Now you're eating at 1,800, for example. So now the weight starts to change on the scale. You start to lose a few more pounds much faster. But this time, you're not just losing fat, you're also losing muscle. And we want to hang on to as much muscle as possible, because the loss of muscle is ultimately going to bring our basal metabolic rate down. And when our basal metabolic rate comes down, that's actually going to make it a lot harder for you to lose fat the further you get along in your calorie deficit, right? That is the whole purpose of going on a deficit and becoming lean only one time and then staying lean year round. We want to maximize fat loss. We don't want to be doing both fat loss and muscle loss simultaneously, right? Therefore, we want to keep our calorie deficit through our meals at 500, a maximum of 500, and never ever strive to go below that. If we want to increase our calorie deficit, we don't do it through our meals, we do it through increasing our step count. just 1,000 additional steps every single month. So that's another problem, and that's another reason why you're not losing any belly fat, because you are not in a calorie deficit. For you to stay in a calorie deficit, you're going to have to log your meals. You're going to have to weigh each of your meals. You need to go out and get the cheapest kitchen scale you can find at your local Target, Walmart, Aldi, whatever, and just use that day in and day out. Prepare your meals. You're not going to be a cook. You're not going to be a Chef Gordon Ramsay overnight. I sure as hell I'm not. I've been cooking for 3 years, living on my own, and I've gotten definitely better. My meals are definitely tasty, and I can definitely digest them. I haven't had any stomach or digestive issues from my meals. And frankly, my meals, I prefer them over any gourmet restaurant meal out there, because I know exactly what I'm putting into my body each and every single day, 4 times a day, and it has been serving me well. I've been able to hit calorie deficits and diet all the way down on 3 separate occasions already, to 9.7% body fat the very first time, then to 10.5% body fat, as recently as 11.9% body fat, and you know what? I'm back again dieting down. And this time, I hope to reach single-digit body fat. But more on that later. The fourth reason why your 20,000 steps a day is still not allowing you to lose any of that stubborn-ass belly fat is because you're not consistently weight training. You're not lifting weights. You probably haven't even been inside of a gym. Or if you do at-home workouts, you just stick to occasionally doing calisthenics or body weight exercises, but you're not regular at that. So you should be working out at least 3 times a day. And what I normally recommend is a total body workout, because a total body workout allows you to hit all 6 muscle groups. And if you do that 3 times a week, you're guaranteed to hit each muscle at least 3 times a week, and maybe even at least 6 sets a week, because what I normally advocate is 2 sets only per exercise. And sometimes I do multiple exercises per muscle group. For example, for the chest, I do the chest fly and I do the incline bench press. So that allows me to hit my chest muscle group twice. Or 4 sets of that, actually. 4 sets, and I hit that 3 times a week. So 4 sets, 3 times a week. That easily allows me to hit 12 sets just on my chest alone. So I'm hitting my lower chest, middle chest, upper chest. So that allows me to make significant gains in the gym on a weekly basis. And I'm also progressively overloading. I'm adding 1 rep to every compound and isolation exercise per week, and then after 3 weeks are up, I'm going to increase the weights across all my exercises. So generally, as a rule of thumb, I'm going to do 10 pounds on the compound lifts, and then I'm going to do 5 pounds on the isolation lifts, the curls, some of the presses, etc. So that is something that I think a lot of you all are ignoring. You guys are just choosing to do walking or some form of high intensity cardio instead, but you're neglecting weight training, muscle building altogether. And you're going to need to build muscle, and you're going to need to hang on to as much muscle as possible, because guess what? Even if you diet down all the way to below 12% body fat, chances are, if you haven't been in the gym or building any muscle, or even specifically working on your abs, you're not going to have any abs, right? You're not going to be able to see the 2nd and 3rd rows of your rectus abdominis muscle. There's not going to be anything for you to actually look back on and say that you'll have a flat stomach, but it's just going to be essentially muscleless. Abs are built in the gym. They're only revealed in the kitchen, right? When you strip away all of that fat. We definitely want to do that through our calorie deficit, but we want to use the gym to actually build muscle. So that is going to be the thing that I think a lot of you all are neglecting, and a reason for why you guys cannot see or cannot get rid of that belly fat. Another advantage of consistently working out week after week, month after month, year after year, and I've now been consistent in the gym or using at-home workouts, doing calisthenics as well as doing weight training exercises. That has actually allowed me to see multiple rows of my rectus abdominal muscle at higher body fat percentages. Thus, the first time, 9.7% body fat, I had to diet down all the way to below 10% body fat to see six-pack abs. The following year, I just had to go to 10.5% body fat to finally see that lower belly fat finally disappear. And then this year, 11.9% was the magic number, the magic body fat number for me to reach six-pack abs. So it definitely becomes easier and easier for you to make your rectus abdominis muscles, aka your six-pack abs, more visible the more regular you are in the gym. So that is going to be something that I'm going to recommend to you all, that you immediately start to get into a consistent habit of, because if you don't build muscle, don't expect to see abs, and don't expect that belly fat to ever go away. The last thing that I'm going to mention right here, and I'm going to make sure I'm not forgetting anything in my notes before I jump into this, is that almost everyone, especially starting off on their fat loss journey or even their daily walking journey, is extremely impatient. They have a deadline in mind. They're trying to maybe become or get washboard abs or become lean as hell for a wedding, for a family get-together, for a summer vacation, for the summer in general, so they can actually walk outside without their shirt on the beach. And then what happens after that? They immediately go back to those same crummy eating habits, being sedentary as hell, and skipping out on the gym until next year's New Year's resolution. And as a result of that, they're not able to stay lean year round. So that's going to be one of the things that I see a lot of, unfortunately, that people are not patient enough, and they don't realize that although you only need to get lean one time, in order for you to stay lean year after year for life, it requires a lifetime commitment, right? You need to be committed to daily walking, progressively overloading on your step count every single month. You need to be in the gym every single week. I don't care if it's 2 days a week, 3 days a week. I don't care if you're even working out at home. You need to be consistent. You have to pick a time of day to work out and just do it. And then also your nutrition. You can't skip out on your nutrition, and you can't cheat on your diet. I know people think that it's cool or okay to be essentially doing cheat meals or even having cheat days to kind of have balance. Unfortunately, when it comes to nutrition, it's best to adopt an all or nothing philosophy. At least that's what I've seen in my personal experience. Anytime I decide to take a break from monitoring my nutrition, take a break from 100% clean eating, that's when I fall back on bad habits. That's when I give in to my food cravings, the food noise, the food addiction, and start pigging out, snacking, eating outside at restaurants. And unfortunately, even if I try to prevent it, I fall back and start bulking, right? That's what I call it. People who say that they're going on a lean bulk or a dirty bulk, they're just giving themselves an excuse to just throw caution to the winds, forget their nutrition, and start pigging out again. Start essentially eating in a calorie surplus. And that fat, in fact, your belly fat, which is going to be the last place where you're going to lose fat during a calorie deficit, it's going to be the very first place where the fat unfortunately reappears again. So you fall right back, and you have to go ahead and restart your calorie deficit. So I'm here to tell you that only get lean once. Do one calorie deficit and then reverse diet. Reverse diet means that you go back to doing a maintenance or eating at maintenance calories, right? So if your maintenance calories were originally 2,500 and you stopped your calorie deficit eating 2,000 calories a day, then bump up your calories by 500 and then resume eating at 2,500 calories every single day. That is going to allow you to rebuild muscle. That's going to allow you to bring up your metabolic rate. And even for all you men out there, that's going to allow you to bring up your testosterone levels, because your testosterone level is going to take a massive hit, especially if you get closer to 10% body fat or even surpass 10% body fat. So I would also recommend everyone, men and women, to get your blood work done, especially at the end of a calorie deficit. And I actually made a video on how I took my blood tests and my urine analysis right at the end of my calorie deficit this year, and that actually revealed that I had really low testosterone levels, and I actually got that treated and currently on treatment for that, which, you know, I'm forever grateful for, and that has actually significantly boosted my progress in the gym. And now in this recent calorie deficit, that's allowing me to hang on to as much muscle as possible. In fact, I'm actually even gaining muscle throughout this deficit while I'm cutting down on fat. And once again, I'm completely patient. I don't have a single deadline in mind. I'm willing to let this ride out until the end of this year, to the beginning of next year. I don't care how long it takes, but I'm committed, and I've committed myself long term to staying lean for life. And maybe this time I reach single digit body fat, who knows? But at any rate, I'm going to keep you guys posted on my progress. And if you guys are comfortable, I'd also appreciate you guys to keep me posted on your progress as well. Your daily walking journey, your fat loss journey. Maybe some of you are also in the camp of building more muscle. Let me know in the comments below. And until next time, just walk, baby.